Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen here with Louis D'Souza and our new special third co-host, my sister-in-law, Uohna Thiessen. Today is Monday, March the 9th, 2020. It is 4 p.m. New York time, but wherever you are in the world, thank you for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And as we promised last week, 2 are becoming 3, which is kind of appropriate, Uohna, because you were my first original full-time co-host back in the day. Like, what was that? Like 6-7 years ago, something like that?
Actually, yeah. Wow. It doesn't seem that long, but
I know.
Actually.
Yeah. You did it with me for about a year, a little over a year. And,
yes.
And then you had other things you had to go on to. So it's great to have you back. And
yes.
And it's a little bit different this time. I mean, last time was a lot less slow. It was much more low tech. This time it's higher tech. We have microphones. We have video. I mean, you know, you got a whole lot of stuff here to get used to.
I know we didn't have video before, so that's the newest part. But then again, I wasn't a doctor either.
That's true. Congratulations to Uohna because she became a PhD in statistics in January. She is now part of the Pile Higher and Deeper Club. But she's also, I mean, she was working on that PhD for how many years? It was a long time.
I hate to say actually how many.
But you did it. You got there, and that's really the most important part. So hooray for that.
Exactly.
You know the statistics of the duration, yeah.
Actually, I do, yes.
Louis, I actually asked.
And you know how to play with statistics so that you get the best results, eh?
Of course, absolutely.
that was the question I asked her. I said, okay, now you're officially a doctor. Is it true? Can you confirm for me, is it true that a statistician can make statistics say anything that they want to make them say? And she just blurted it right out. She said, yeah, absolutely.
Well, now that we're on record, I want to add within limits.
Within limits. Oh, okay. Yeah, we don't want to basically alienate the entire statistical field of personnel. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, Uohna actually brings a number of different skills to the table. Statistics is actually small compared to many of them. Back when we were doing shows together, we spent a lot of time talking about health-related stuff.
Yep.
Because at the time, your PhD path was kind of going in a slightly different direction, and it really brought you into a lot of stuff that fit in perfectly with what we were talking about with the law of attraction.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of been the impetus behind bringing you back here again. So, I mean, it's kind of fun. We're going to be, you know, reliving like, you know, in old times. It was good.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, because back then I was pursuing, my emphasis was actually neuroscience, and I spent 5 years doing that research. And for reasons we may or may not go into, I decided to shift out of that to, you know, more of the technical side and less of the lab wet science, as it's called. But I still have, you know, a tremendous love for that field, and I still do a lot of research on my own in that. So, you know, getting to come on the show and talk about that is actually really, really fun for me. So,
and I'm anticipating that there's going to be some nice overlap here because Louis is very much into nutrition and health and so forth.
Oh,
and I'm
awesome.
expecting that's going to be, I mean, his big thing in life, well, besides his self-employment because he's a successful entrepreneur and so forth, his big thing in life is he loves teaching people about the law of attraction.
Okay.
And, you know, when you combine those two together, he's told some interesting stories about how they overlap. In fact, his sister-in-law, this is kind of a sister-in-law thing going on here, but his sister-in-law was also a co-host for a while.
Oh, really?
And she came onto the show because she was into something called Jinshinjutsu, which Louis is also a practitioner of. And, I mean, I'll let Louis explain that part of it too, but there's just like lots of little areas of overlap. So I'm thinking this is going to be an interesting, compilation of skills here by having the three of us on this show.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to learning a lot.
So Louis, let me go to you next. First of all, hello. I hope you had a great weekend. Anything going on, first of all, that, you want to tell people about?
Oh, I've just been very busy. I've taken 2 garages and made them into one, and done a lot of things on it. So it's just been very, very hands-on. It's been quite fun.
Well, you actually
Very
told
busy
one of the
week.
stories last week about what was going on with the garage, so I'm glad to hear you got that ironed out.
Well, there's more and more stories.
Oh, do
When you're
tell.
dealing with boulders, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's true.
Whoa.
Very true. Very true. But you always bring the positive attitude that, what was the phrase? If not this, then something better. That's the attitude.
If not that, then something better, yeah.
Yeah.
This or that, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's worked out beautifully for you over and over and over again.
Over and over again, yes.
And our listeners who are also watching on YouTube are going to see you've changed your background. I mean, now Uohna's actually.
I don't like cold and wet England, so I'm in Florida now.
Which is actually where Uohna is. She's like, a half an hour from the coast, and you're
Right.
looking like you're on the coast. So
Yes.
we just want to make sure our
I'm in your
viewers aren't
backyard.
confused.
In my mind.
But it looks great. I love it. I mean,
I'm loving all these backgrounds that you can now change. Yeah.
we're experiencing a warm spell right now, so I'm almost feeling like that's actually the ocean outside of my window. So that's pretty cool.
Oh.
Uohna, this is the way the weather should have been when we were down there in January.
I know. It should have been like that.
Ugh.
Yes.
It's beautiful today. Louisa and I got out for a walk. It's in the low 70s. It's just, it's beautiful. Anyway, so I didn't really have a particular topic in mind. I figured this was just kind of like a get to know everybody kind of a thing. I know you've been thinking about stuff. It was kind of what made you want to come back. Was there anything particular you wanted to talk about today?
I now that you mentioned Louis is into jiu-jitsu, and I'm also pursuing a new health exercise thing, which it's just new for me, which is
By the way, it's Jinshinjutsu, which is a different thing. It's not
It's a healing art as opposed to a martial art.
Oh, I see.
right.
Okay, I was mistaken. It reminds me of the Progressive commercial. I don't know if you guys see that in England, but where the guy's into all kinds of stuff, and they say, "Are you into martial arts?" And he says, "No, just jiu-jitsu. It's a very particular skill set or something like that." But what I'm doing nowadays is HIIT, which is high
intensity interval training. Yes.
Training. Yes. And
I've taught HIIRT classes.
And what is that?
High intensity interval resistance training.
Oh, okay. I see. Yeah. So I have not incorporated the resistance part of it yet.
You probably have, because if you use the weight of your body, then you've used a bit of resistance. But.
That's true. But it's been a really, it's kind of going along with, as Walt, I was shared with Walt, that I'm very much interested now in the whole concept of struggle. And, I've been running for, decades, but always, just jogging, at whatever pace I feel comfortable jogging at. But I decided to try HIIT as part of that my new mindset of embracing the struggle and challenging myself. And it's been an absolutely amazing experience thus far. And, just a change in attitude, right? Because you really have to push yourself with these intervals. But just knowing that I'm doing it with a different perspective in mind, it has made it so much more fun. In fact, Mark and I both do it, my husband and I. And, we're just really enjoying not just the physical benefits, but the mental and the emotional and, the neurological benefits of that kind of training. So, yeah, it's really been a lot of fun.
I think a lot of our listeners may not know what it is. Would you want to just explain what HIIT?
Oh, sure. Yeah, so mine is just HIIT.
You're a hit and I'm
Right.
Oh, don't cry.
Yes, so HIIT is high intensity interval training. And what it does is it allows you to work out for a shorter period of time with bouts of very intense intervals. So, for example, what I do is I do it on the treadmill, and I actually follow this video. This guy is doing it, and so you run at a pace that's reasonably comfortable. You warm up for 5 minutes, and then you put the speed up as fast as you can go. That you can sustain for 30 seconds. And for me right now, that's 8 miles per hour. I'm working on getting that up. You know, my husband is running at, I think he does 11 and 12, but of course he's got much longer legs. So it looks so much easier for him. So I put the speed up to 8 miles per hour for 30 seconds. And then I bring it back down to about 4 miles per hour for another minute and a half. And I do a series of those intervals. Actually, I do 8. I didn't, you know, in the beginning, I couldn't do 8, but I've now worked up to where I can do 8. You know, and there are different ways. You don't have to use a treadmill. You could do it walking, and like you were talking about with the resistance training, I'm sure you could do that with weights as well. But the idea is to challenge your body, and with the running is you're challenging your cardiovascular system. You're putting this intense physical challenge on the system such that it is working at maximum capacity for, you know, a very short period of time, and then you come back down to a comfortable level and allow your heart and your cardiovascular to recover. And you do that several times with the goal of increasing your recovery ability, if there's such a term, because for a number of reasons, but one of which is that it actually helps to increase the production of human growth hormones in the system. And, you know, that's involved in anything from healing to anti-aging to growing new neurons to a whole bunch of benefits. So that's essentially what it is.
That's cool, yeah.
And how's that different from HIIRT?
Well, all it is you're adding resistance into it, so it can be those bells. But what I was doing in my classes is I had a Bulgarian bag, which is basically a moon-shaped or half moon-shaped bag with handles which you swing around that's full of sand or a weight. So it's soft, so it's not hard like a weight, so it can't hurt really. And there's some tremendous moves that you can do to really stretch and strengthen the body. Martial arts people do it, tennis players you do it, you know, a lot of people do it just to strengthen themselves up and to build the muscles, because it's very good at building muscles while you burn fat. So it's really good at shaping the body.
Yeah. I can see how that is actually additionally beneficial, because what I'm doing is mostly working on my cardiovascular system and not so much on my muscular system. But would they use this while they're running, or how would they use the bags?
The bags are generally done in a standing position where you do squats, you know, small movements with the feet, but not massive. Okay. So you're using most the core and your upper body. Okay. And then, of course, you can do a cardio like you're doing as well separately, but that's not what this class was about. Yeah.
I see. Yeah. So I guess that's the next challenge for me.
Now, what's special about doing it high intensity? Why is that important?
Well, what it is it's...
I should have been specific. Who am I asking here? Louis, let's go to you first.
Yeah, since he was the teacher of this, so let's...
So a lot of people want to shape up. And to shape up, you're going to be able to get it much, much quicker by using the high intensity and interval, and specifically the resistance aspect. So when you combine those together, you burn, as I've mentioned before, you burn a lot more fat, you build muscle, and, you know, the speed with which you can do it, that's what's special about it, is tremendous. It is really quite key. The health and strength benefit in your body is just, almost not comparable to other methods. Because when you do that intense aspect, and then you do the rest periods, it is very, very, very healthy for the body.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Besides producing the human growth hormone, one of the things that these high intensity periods and recovery does is that it actually helps you to maintain a higher metabolism for longer periods. So
Yes.
if I'm just jogging, if I jog for, an hour or so, my metabolism goes up, but then it kind of goes down pretty precipitously. But with high intensity interval training, your metabolism goes up, and it goes back down much more slowly. So you're able to actually elevate your resting metabolism, during.
Significantly, yes.
Yes, yeah. So that's just one of the main, benefits as well.
That sounds pretty cool. I mean, I have to admit the idea of working really, really hard for 30 seconds doesn't sound all that enticing, but if it means that you're going to get quicker results, okay, well, I can kind of see doing that, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that. It's actually a lot more enticing than you think, because you're getting rests in your exercise quite quickly. And you're getting in those rest periods, you're feeling like wanting to, let's speed it up again. So it really has a very great psychological benefit of getting people to push themselves a bit further in a very easy way.
Yeah. I know for me, one of the things that I've experienced is that for 30 seconds, you get to feel like Usain Bolt. I mean, so it's a double-sided thing, right? Because you get to run as fast as you can, and that feeling is awesome. And just knowing that you're only doing this for 30 seconds, and not for any much longer is so great. But even after you've done after you worked out and you're going about your day and you're like, you know what? I just ran 8 miles an hour on the treadmill. Now, mind you, it was only for periods of 30 seconds, but I did it. And that the psychological benefit is one of the reasons why I've actually taken on the challenge, because like I mentioned, I'm embracing struggle in other areas of my life as well. But knowing that helps you to, it just kind of builds your confidence, which is, something that you can't pay for. You build your confidence, not just with physical tasks, but just with any kind of task in general, because now you realize that you can take on most any challenge, at least for, short periods of time. And it helps you also, when I do the intervals, I do sets of 8, I feel stronger physically. I feel stronger emotionally. Mentally, when I'm working on the computer and sometimes I get tired, I think about my HIIT experiences and I think, you know what, I can push through for another interval of this, and so there, it's really great. Now, mind you, one of the reasons why I resisted doing it in the past is because it is hard. It is very hard. But
you feel like you've worked out when you finished. Yeah.
Yes, you do. I mean, even when you're running, like, so here's the thing, right? You start running at 8 miles per hour and you're running with all your might and you're thinking, oh, it must have been 30 seconds already. And you look at the time, it's only been 5. But that's the other thing why I do it, because one of the things I'm doing is learning to, and we can get into this more, but learning to, how should I say, control my ego in terms of the emotional sensations that come from these patterns, whether it's mental or physical, but learning to actually recognize these signals that are coming from my body and learning to be okay with them. So as I'm running and I'm feeling like I am not going to make it, because that's the signal my body is sending to me, because this is new, this is different, I've not done this before. And my body is screaming, you better stop or else you're going to kill yourself, kind of thing. And I just said, okay, yeah, that's information, it's coming, and that's not necessarily true. I've done this before and I can do it again. And I will be okay. In fact, not just okay, I'll be actually better for it. So that's all, there's so many reasons why I love HIIT.
And we have a live stream listener, Josephine, is joining us, and she's asking a question. And Uohna, I know what the answer is where you're concerned. I suspect I know what might be where Louis is concerned. But she says, have any of you ever read Bruce Lipton's Biology of Belief? It relates to the health and fitness topic you're covering right now.
Yes, I have read Biology of Belief. I've read it a long time ago because actually it was very much in line with the research that I was doing, with the body. And in fact, I was doing that kind of research, growing cells in the petri dish. And, the idea was that it was all about the DNA. And he's saying, no, actually it's about the covering of the cell. And I just forgot the word for the covering of the cell.
Membrane?
The membrane. There we go. The cell membrane.
Hey, the non-scientist did it.
Yes. And so, reading Bruce Lipton really changed my mind. I have to admit that when I tried to communicate those ideas to my professors, they were like, what? That's crazy talk. Yeah. So I learned who I could and could not talk with this about. Yeah.
And I remember we talked quite a bit about Lipton when you were doing the show with me the first time. So that's how I knew that you knew it. Louis, are you familiar with Lipton's work?
Not at all.
Not at all. Okay. Yeah. He's definitely worth checking out, but, he's revolutionary. He's shaking up science. I mean, and pissing a lot of people off. So that's always a good sign.
Yes, definitely.
So what's his basic idea?
So he is a PhD scientist in biology, and he started challenging some of the dogmas in science, even in his own research, and then in what he was teaching, because he was teaching at the medical school at the time, and of course he's since left conventional science, and he now teaches and writes along the lines of law of attraction. But the main idea is that. And I hope I'm not doing a disservice to his work, but he talks about being able to change who you are, and it involves, among other things, changing your belief about who you are and about the world and about the system. And it's not just about I don't know. He talks about hypnosis and all these other things. Walt, maybe you more recently read on Bruce Lipton than I am.
It's been a while actually since I read it. I last read it about 2 or 3 years ago, but he basically goes through a lot of the conventional wisdom of science and biology and challenges it based on research that he's found that others have done within the field of biology that challenges some of those strictures, some of those long-held beliefs, and says, the results you guys are getting are not matching up with what your long-term theories have been. It's time to start shifting the theories. And that, of course, is where he's getting the pushback, because you don't do that unless you have thousands and thousands of research projects on your side. He's saying, well, no, I've got a few on my side, and they're actually pretty interesting. Take a look at them.
Yeah.
Was he not on The Secret?
Yes.
Because his face looks familiar.
He wasn't
in
The Secret, I don't think.
No.
He was in one of those type of videos about the law of attraction with other scientists and other experts.
I think he may have been Who Do You Think You Are? I think he may have been in that movie, or whatever the name of that movie was. It's a name like that one. But you're right, he was in one of those movies.
But I remembered one of the things he talked about is because he actually did the research himself where he had these cells and he manipulated them such that they all had the same DNA, but he changed certain aspects of the cell membrane, and that changed the way the cell behaved. And so he's saying his idea was that the DNA is not in control. It's the membrane that is the brain of the cell. And he extended that, he extrapolated that to say that we are not controlled by our DNA, but by the environmental factors that, the whole idea of epigenetics. I don't know if he actually used the term, but it's a similar idea that there are things other than DNA that determine, how our bodies manifest and how our lives.
And by the way, I butchered that movie title. It was What the Bleep Do We Know? So please forgive me for the earlier mispronunciation completely of what the title of the movie was.
What did you say?
Who do you think you are? That's what I said it was, but no. What the bleep do we know?
Okay, well, that should be the next movie, Walt. I think you need to start working on that. Who do you think you are?
It's quite a controversial title, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah. And it was actually one of those movies that was kind of panned when it first came out because it was so alternative. It had a woo-woo aspect to it. Of course, you can't have any of that.
Yeah. In fact, that was one of the reasons why I avoided The Secret for a long time. Having grown up in the church in a very conservative religion, the way the Secret was marketed, it was like magic or black magic or some kind, that kind of idea. And so I thought,
white magic.
Goodness, white magic.
White magic.
Yeah. So I stayed away from it for a while until Oprah interviewed her, Brian. And of course, if Oprah interviews her, then it's fine.
Yeah. Rhonda Byrne definitely moved the movie along when she got into Oprah. There's no doubt about that.
No, yes.
It's funny, too, because as you're saying that, I'm reminded about how this podcast got started. Because you remember that time we were in our house and we were sitting next to the sliders there. We were talking about all this stuff. And I was saying, we really should be doing a podcast or something like that on this. And you guys all said, yeah, that sounds good. And I could see the look in your eyes like, oh, God, please, no, don't ask me to do that.
Yeah, we thought you were going to do the podcast.
Well, apparently I was. That's what ended up happening,
That's true. You're right.
But that's what I'm reminded of. That's kind of what got the whole thing going. And at that conversation, that's where you voiced the same opinion that it was a difficult topic because of your religious upbringing.
Right. And I was not alone. I'm sure a lot of people had the similar.
A lot of people have expressed difficulties with it. Some people have gone through changes with religious beliefs. I mean, Louis and I have talked about that a lot. He's had even more interesting experiences than I have as far as I'm concerned in terms of what he's gone through with his spiritual beliefs. But there are a lot of people who are very strongly Christian religious who, they bump into it. I saw like 3 or 4 posts on Facebook just the last week.
Really?
People saying, what do you do? I mean, how do you handle that kind of situation? Because it can be pretty tough because it's challenging. I mean, there are overlaps. The overlaps help, but still, it's challenging. I mean, Louis, you went through that more than anybody, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's complicated. I mean, everybody's life is so full of many different parameters and experiences. But, I was brought up Roman Catholic and, from the age of 8, I said to my mom, what is truth, love, and God really about? And she went, huh? I realized that I had to, find my own way and my own understanding. And I wasn't going to get it from my parents. And there was nobody in my childhood who gave me even a crumb, not a crumb. So there was one experience I had. It was fascinating for me because I was hiking and camping all the time. And this one lady from Johannesburg, I was in South Africa and we were down in a valley and we'd walked the whole day and we were camping at night. And this lady had come from Johannesburg and down with us, and she'd walked with us, and I kind of got along with her, and then we really started chatting, and I was opened up to her, and she was telling me all these things about health and nutrition and family and little pieces of the law of attraction and all that kind of stuff, and it was fascinating to me. And it's like first person who was giving me all these bits of pieces of truth, and we started talking. We started talking about my relationship with my parents and all the rest of it. And I was just so, all these crumbs were filling together and my stomach was in a knot and I was so excited. And it was 1 o'clock in the morning and it's only the 2 of us left around the campfire. And I said to her, why don't people speak like this all the time? And she said to me, because they're scared. And it was like a light bulb moment, like, wow, of course, now I understand.
Yeah.
And I didn't find anybody else to speak to for many years after that. So that was like, I always say I was brought up in a religious sea, but a spiritual desert.
Yeah. My experience has not been that dramatic. It's been very gradual over the years because I've struggled, back and forth. But what I've come to realize is that, at its core, the law of attraction is very much in line with Christian beliefs in terms of what the Bible teaches and what Jesus taught. You know, the original teachings before it became corrupted, if I should say. Yeah, you know, I found that. And one of the writers that helped me understand that was Neville Goddard. Because he was one who found a way to kind of merge LOA and the law of attraction. In fact, you know, of course, he predates The Secret and all the hype about the law of attraction. He's been teaching this some 50 years ago. But, you know, he incorporated a lot of Christian ideologies and explained a lot of things. And a lot of things that I was confused about growing up as a Christian made a lot more sense once I interpreted through the law of attraction. And so I realized that, you know, this is a universal law, and it didn't just come about, you know, when, you know, it started becoming popular. It's something that other people have been talking about for, you know, decades, maybe even centuries. There are a lot of other books that were written about the same thing, but, you know, it wasn't until Rhonda's marketing genius that it took the world by force. And so now I'm able to, you know, accept LOA, the tenets of LOA, and I have to say true Christianity, not the one that I was raised in, and realize that actually it's in essence the same thing. It's about, you know, you, the energy, the thoughts, the emotions, whatever it is you want to call that. That is what affects what your reality is, what you get back in life. And, you know, Jesus kind of said the same thing. The Bible teaches the same thing, but it's hidden under a lot of other.
And I'm glad that you clarified something for me that I didn't know. I always thought BC was before Christ, but now I know it's before the corruption, and AD is after the dumbing down. So now I get it.
Yes. No, really, it's yeah.
No, I thought it was Antichrist, Devil's Children, is it?
There you go. Whoa. All right.
I didn't say it, Mom. It was these guys.
Oh dear!
I remember that 60s. What was the AC/DC? The album.
Yes,
the group.
Album.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they were against that at school. Oof.
Oh my God! Yeah, we had at church. We had like a whole seminar on that rock music and all the hidden
and when you play
the
LP backwards.
Yep, we had the same.
And we sucked that up. We just sucked it up. Oh yeah, that must be right.
Oh my goodness, yeah, because you know these people in authority were telling us exactly. You know, they were telling us that.
I always wondered why they were bothering to actually take the time to play the records backwards. But,
backwards,
you know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
It never occurred to me. Like, whoa, boy, they've been busy.
Oh yeah, I mean, how else would
it's not that? It's the psychological effect that your mind can play it backwards in your sleep or something. I can't remember what it was about.
Yeah, something. Yeah,
there was a fear of the unknown,
right? Because there was supposed to be these subliminal messages that were being communicated to you and something.
Yeah, Paul is dead. Absolutely. So. Of course, he's one of the only Beatles who's still alive. So much for that theory. But yeah, the thing about doing these law of attraction shows is that since I have so many different people who have been my co-hosts, I've had so many different perspectives and so many different viewpoints, and that to me is one of the great strengths of the whole thing.
Yes, because
those different perspectives are just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Richard Bach illusion perspective. Use it or
lose
it.
Absolutely. Yeah. We just did, a few months ago, Louis and I just did that entire book, the Illusions book, cover to cover.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And you read it?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh, you got to read that when you want.
Bye.
Okay. Okay. So here's
Best
the deal.
Book ever.
All right.
Take every other book and throw it away. Bring that one to the table.
Okay, Illusions. What would so I'm going to make a deal with you, Louis. If I read Illusions, you have to read See, I'm torn between whether you should read Bruce Lipton or Joe Dispenza. Have you read Joe Dispenza? Any?
No, neither of them. No.
Okay, well, then you have to read one of those guys.
Take your pick. You can go with either one.
Yes, you can go with either one.
If they're as short as Illusions, I'm quite happy to read them.
No.
They're a little bit longer than Illusions, I'm afraid. Yeah.
Come on, it's got to be something equal.
Oh, okay. Well, read half of the book.
No, just take your best book at the moment, the one you would recommend the most, and I'll read that one.
That's a tough one, Louis, because Illusions is the only book I can think of that was a fiction book teaching law of attraction concepts.
Oh, it's a fiction book. Oh,
it's a fictional story, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And an excellent one, really, really well done. Although there's another fictional
story. It's so good, you don't know it's a fictional story. Most of the time you think it's true.
Well, that was part of the appeal, because when you first read it,
very much so.
Is it what he's saying?
Did this really happen?
Yeah. Did he really mean that?
Okay, guys, don't ruin it for me if I'm going to read this.
Oh, believe me, that doesn't come close to ruining it.
Okay.
No worries at all.
Yeah, but that's the great thing, like you were saying, doing all this with the different co-hosts. For me, it's been reading all these different books. Mm-hmm. Each of the authors have a different perspective, because I read Joe Dispenza and Joe Lipton, and then there's Bradley. What's his first name?
Oh, geez. What is his name?
Bradley. But anyways, he and, I've read a lot from The Stroke of Insight.
Yeah, what's her name? I can't remember what her name is either. We're not doing too well here today.
No, we're not.
I think we need to go do some high-intensity workouts to get the brain going.
Yeah, to get some neurons firing up there.
Have either of you read Carolyn Myss?
Yes, I have read. Yes, Carolyn.
Which ones?
It's about the archetypes.
Yeah.
Archetypes, yes. I'm not sure.
Okay.
What's the title of the book?
It's a bit of a harder one.
Yeah, it is. It was. Trust me. But I have read her, and I've read some of the other books that Mark introduced me to. He was big into A Course in Miracles, and some of other Joe Campbell and some of the other writers that.
So Course in Miracle, Goddard, they're very good at helping Christians move a bit further.
Yes. Yeah. And I needed that.
Of course,
I found that those kind of books really not what I was looking for. I was wanted to be way on the other side.
You'd gone a very radical route, so that's not terribly surprising.
Yeah.
I understand that, because after, I had been led by the hand gently with, by A Course in Miracles and others, I realized, this is kind of not quite what it's. But, like I said, it was what I needed at the time. So. I
mean, for me, A Course in Miracles should have been entitled A Course in Headaches, because that's what it gave me.
Yeah. It's just so thick and long.
I know. It is.
I got about a third of the way through the book, and I said to myself, stop messing with my mind. I don't like this.
Well, growing up in conservative Christianity, it was, because you've read a lot, you read the Bible and other books that are written like that. So it kind of feels a little bit familiar. Although, as Louis hinted, I felt that they didn't go far enough. It was still too closely. I remember having discussions with Mark, and I'm saying, but he's still saying the same thing that they said, and I want something different, But, I understood where he was coming from and how other people saw it as being beneficial.
I see one of our other listeners is also confirming he's also a reader of Biology of Belief. And yes, he says, I remember backmasking.
Oh, yes, that's what it was called with the music. Yes. It seemed like all the churches were trying to protect, quote unquote, the young people from the evils.
Did it work?
The funny thing was I never listened to that music in the first place. So they actually exposed me to this.
Well, that's what I think. I think it worked the opposite way from what they had in mind, kind of produced the opposite result.
Well, when you understand the law of attraction, when you're pushing against something and saying no, you're activating it.
Exactly.
So you have to be very careful about what you say and what you do if you want people not to do it.
Yeah, they were so excited.
Specifically when you just trying to discipline your kids. You know, don't sit on that. Oh, I'll just sit over there. You know.
Yeah.
Don't. You know, and you catch yourself falling all over yourself because you now know what you should be saying, and you haven't practiced enough turning from what you don't want to what you do want.
Yes.
And it really is a practice, and that is the law of attraction practice that everybody has to do if you want to work with the universal law.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you want to have it work the way you want it to.
That
lady in the sauna the other day was saying, you know, my daughter's just terrible. She's always on her phone, and her screen time is just through the roof, and it's just terrible. And I don't know how to stop her. And she was just going on, and I was like, oh my God. I said to her, have you thought about how beneficial the digital world is? You've got the I know it's kind of beneficial, but she's still spending so much time on it.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing when we've talked about this a lot, particularly the last couple of weeks, Louis, about how it's really useful to experience what you don't like so that you know what it is that you do like. Mm-hmm. But so often we get hung up on, well, what is it that I do like? I don't know, but it must be the opposite of what I don't like. So I'm just going to keep focusing on that.
Yeah, it's like Louis said, a practice. It's a training. You have to really overcome these the patterns that that's been established.
That your parents have drummed into you, that your teachers have drummed into you, that your priests have drummed into you.
Yes, and that you have now incorporated into yourself so much so that you think it's who you are, and that's that's the overcoming that needs to.
But when you're changing, you start feeling like quite a different person, and you really you feel like you're putting on new clothes, and
it's very it's enlightening on one hand, but it's so strange on the other hand, and then when you get together with your family and you realize where all your problems came from.
It's amazing what we take on from our families,
from
our teachers, from our peers, from other adults that we know. I mean, we just take on so much stuff. We're so good. We're sponges at that age. Yes. We're absorbent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why I am, passionate about this whole idea of embracing the struggle, because I think that is a very effective path for helping us to untrain ourselves, untrain our minds, our bodies, or our psyches, to become a new person. And that path, I think, it is a struggle.
I think that you're going to land up in a trap if you keep on focusing on that aspect. So if you elaborate the struggle, okay, and you say, from the struggle, I'm going to focus on the ease, and you spend more time on the ease, that's fine, but I would never focus on the struggle, because I know the law of attraction will bring me more struggle. It is a fact. It's the way the universe works. So the sentence I would maybe change it to slightly would be something like, wouldn't be nice that through the struggle from what I know what I don't want, I have a much better idea of what I do want. I don't know, something like that. I would change it. I would not focus on the struggle.
But you still said the same thing, I think.
That's an interesting question. Did he? Because you can look at it energetically. I mean, what were they different energies, or were they the same energy? Was it the same vibration, as Abraham would put it?
The word struggle is not the same word vibration as the word relief, release. It's not.
I know. So the word struggle is not, but you said if I change the struggle, you still use the word struggle.
So yeah, I mean, what you're I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what I'm perceiving that you are looking at with this whole struggle thing is appreciating the importance of knowing what you don't want.
No,
No?
that's no.
Okay.
All
Okay,
right.
tell me about this whole struggle thing of yours then.
Yes,
Explain it to me.
yes.
I knew this was going to be a good match here. Let me just tell you. I just knew this.
No, I appreciate being challenged because I'm writing about this, and so I need to learn to explain it. And if people have trouble understanding, then I need to do a different job, a better
So
job.
you can just struggle through it, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So when I say struggle, and one of the things that I have to take a tangent that people often associate or you interchange struggle and suffering. So that's two different things for me. But when I say struggle, I mean the challenge, the stepping outside of your comfort zone, in essence.
Struggle is stepping outside your comfort zone.
Yes, that is my working definition of struggle.
What makes that a struggle?
Because it's uncomfortable. It's going against, as we were talking about, your patterns, the things that you would normally do, that you are more inclined to want to do. So it makes it, you get, like I said, sensations, just like when I'm doing my HIIT training and I'm running and my body wants to stop. That to me is a struggle. So that's what I'm talking about.
It's an interesting point because I found that whenever I am on what we'll call the safety zone side, and I've been there for a while, the comfort zone side, and I have been resistant to leaving it, that feeling of resistance feels like a struggle to get through. But interestingly enough, if I change the perspective to what it's like after I've gotten out of the comfort zone, then to me, the struggle is actually staying inside the comfort zone. The perspective is everything. And
True, but right. So it does depend on which side you're on, and so that's part of what I'm hoping to write about: changing your perspective. The way you see the struggle. So when you get on the other side, you see it differently. But what if we could learn to see it before we get on the other side? That's part of my challenge of writing about this.
This is something that Joel and I used to talk about a lot because, of course, Joel was co-hosting for a number of years with me, and he's big into this idea of how valuable struggle is. And I can certainly see the viewpoint. I can see both sides of it. And that's what's so fascinating. I mean, I was going to go into something, but Louis, I knew you were going to say something, so I'll just turn it over to you so you can finish what you're going to say because I'm curious to see where you're going to take it.
So how much do you know about Abraham Hicks and the teachings?
I've read some of his work. I read a couple of his books. I don't remember.
There, actually.
Yeah, their books. That's right.
Yeah. So if I said to you step 5, you wouldn't know what I was talking about. No. Okay. So to me, what I'm feeling is what you're talking about is step 5.
Which is?
Well, step 1 is when you know what you don't want. Step 2 is when you have a better idea what you do want. And step 3 is manifestation of what you do want. Step 4 is the practice of lowering your resistance to manifest. So doing step 3 again and again and again. And step 5 is appreciating step 1, which is knowing what you don't want, and turning it around to know what you do want at the same time. So it's kind of seeing what you don't want, knowing what you do want at exactly the same time, and making that flip.
Okay.
So from the struggle, moving forward to the relief and release of whatever you want.
So, here's what I'm perceiving. That both you and Walt are probably better students of, the teachings of Abraham Hicks than I am. And I know that there is a lot of discussions about what you do want and what you don't want. as far as their teachings are concerned. But, and maybe this is something I need to think more about, but when I think about struggle, it's not in terms of something that you do want or don't want. In fact, if I were to think about it, I think it's more of, my goal is to help people see that struggle is something they do want. You know, to take on the challenge, to defy the odds, to step outside of their comfort zone. And
so if we broke down the word struggle, would you say it leans on the side of what you do want or what you don't want? If you just broke it down onto that.
So I'm thinking it's leaning on the side of what you do want. But here's the other thing. I think you can have a particular set of circumstances, and one person can see it as a struggle and another person can see it as an obstacle or a suffering or something, you know. And I'm saying that the way you perceive it is what makes it beneficial in terms of how it changes you, how you can use it to become more of who you want to be, essentially.
Okay, so I'm going to pause you there, Walt. I'm going to ask you, if I said the word struggle, is it what you do want or what you don't want?
It depends how I'm feeling. Sometimes to me, a struggle sounds like something I don't want. Other times it sounds like something I can hardly wait to take on. It just depends on how I'm feeling. I'm the one who's bringing the vibration. Struggle is simply how I'm labeling my reaction, and sometimes I'm feeling good about the label, sometimes I'm not feeling good about the label.
Yeah. The interesting thing in my mind is that I perceive, this is my perception, that most of humanity would perceive the word struggle as what they don't want. Maybe I think
that's true. I agree with that. I think that most people would agree with that.
Yes.
So therefore, when you bring it in your book, struggle, the word struggle, you're really going to have to define it very, very clearly of what you actually mean by it.
Yes.
And you're going to really have to get that point across, because most people are going to see that as what you don't want.
Yes.
And
yes.
Of course, every subject's two subjects, wanted and unwanted, but struggle still seems to be a lot more on the one side than the other.
Right. So that is actually one of the main objectives of my book, is to get people to see struggle differently, like to have a different vibration towards the idea of struggle. So I'm hoping that with my writing, that's one of the things that happens, that their mental, whatever, vibrational energy that they bring towards the word struggle or anything closely related to that shifts. And it doesn't have the same old connotations, because for a lot of people, struggle is suffering. And that's not the case. They're two different things, right? But of course, if if it's a struggle where you feel helpless and you feel victimized and powerless, then that's suffering. But if it's a struggle where you're being challenged to come out of your comfort zone, to grow, to get stronger, get better, faster, wiser, whatever it is, then that is actually a gift. It's something that, that can be of enormous benefit to you. And so the idea is first to change your mindset about struggle, because, coming from my background in like I was talking about, in a very conservative Christian background, struggle and suffering were synonymous. And not only were they synonymous, but you were taught, whether directly or indirectly, that you need to suffer. You deserve to suffer because you're a sinner and you are unworthy. And so suffering is all that there is. And in fact, the more you suffer, the more God is going to love you, and all that kind of, and those kinds of ideas. And even though there are people who are not as inclined conservatively and religiously, they still have some of that in their subconscious. And so what happens is, anything that looks remotely like a struggle, they avoid. They avoid like the plague, They stay far away from, they want to have nothing to do with. When it can actually, if they had a different perception of it, it can actually be something that could be of benefit to them, some.
Well, you guys are going to be blown away to know that we just completed an hour worth of programming. So we're going to have to carry on this conversation next week, but I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good conversation. Before we go, I want to remind people who are not yet subscribers, we want you to subscribe. This is the kind of great content you get every single day, 5 days a week. And it's so simple to do if you haven't figured it out already. For those who don't really know how to do it, we've made it easy. Go to the homepage of our website, loatoday.net. And at the top of the page, you'll find instructions for your particular device. It actually detects what kind of device you're using and then guides you through the process. And after that, all of our episodes come streaming right to your device 5 days a week, just as we record them. By the way, also check us out on YouTube. That way you can see what Uohna looks like. You can see what Louis looks like. You can see what I look like. And it's kind of fun. We also can be part of the live stream if you can listen in during the time frame that we record this, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. New York time. And subscribe there as well. But whatever you do, make sure you subscribe, because let me tell you, your daily dose of happy, this is not just a little tagline. We really mean it. You end up feeling better listening to the show. So become a subscriber. And Uohna and Louis, I think we're off to a good start here. This is boding very well. Lots of interesting conversation going on. So better get ready for next week. Next week is going to be even more mind-blowing.
Very, very interesting. I'm loving it.
Looking forward to it.
Yes.
All right. So thank you very much. Thank you especially to our podcast listeners. We really love you. We couldn't do this without you. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Cheers, everyone.